If you look around, you'll see the world can be pretty smart. Okay, very smart. At Capella University, we think education should be smart too. That's why we're reshaping online learning with our FlexPath format. You can set your own deadlines, take classes at your own pace, even leverage your previous experience to move faster. So when it comes to earning your bachelor's degree, you know what kind of choice to make. A smart one. Visit capella.edu to learn more. Capella University. Don't just learn, learn smarter.
The Singapore Grand Prix. Just what a race it was. Absolutely nothing went as expected, Kunal.
Yes, we didn't have a Mercedes on pole or anywhere on the podium.
I can't believe it.
Yes, in fact, we didn't have a Mercedes car lead even a single lap. I can't remember when this last happened.
Unless you count the safety car, of course.
And my favorite driver, Mr. Pastor Maldonado, didn't get a penalty at all. Although I must say, he cost Jensen Button a front wing this time. However, let's move.
That's a small one for Pastor.
The Singapore Grand Prix, however, saw Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel back on the top step of the podium. We saw the finger return.
Ooh.
With Red Bull Racing hot on their heels.
This was just the kind of race that Formula One needed so badly to absolutely salvage its reputation of being so boring this season and, perhaps putting an end to the Mercedes dominance.
Yes, the biggest revelation of the weekend, although, in my view, was Ayrton Senna's record was broken, but not by Lewis Hamilton as everyone was expecting. We had Sebastian Vettel better Senna's race win statistics a full 9 starts before.
Wow.
This record, if you think of it, was a long time coming because Vettel has actually won just 3 races in the last 2 seasons.
A lot of fans seem to think, though, that Vettel has lucked out because of the car he's had at his disposal all these years.
I read a very interesting tweet in response to this. It is not as though Ayrton Senna was driving a Marussia himself.
Or a Minardi.
But hats off to Sebastian Vettel. He drove like a quadruple world champion that he is.
What a drive. And Kunal, it was Ferrari's double podium finish in I don't know how many races.
I'm sure they don't remember as well. They would have reached out to the virtual stat man on Twitter to find out. But I know you are actually just gushing because it was Kimi Raikkonen who got his champagne in Singapore as well.
Woo! Of course I'm happy about that. But the man who had the most forgettable race weekend, Lewis Hamilton. The Mercedes cars were just struggling for pace all through the weekend. What was the issue?
I would love to speculate here. Okay. There were some reports that the subway and their magnetic fields were affecting some gearboxes in Singapore. I would be extremely surprised if the subways actually caused Lewis Hamilton's problem. Okay.
Wow.
One doesn't know. These are just reports. But however, Hamilton's car failure meant that we actually got to see something very unbelievable. The sight of the entire F1 field overtaking him on track.
Including Pastor Maldonado. Can you believe that? Pastor Maldonado driving past Lewis Hamilton?
That too without ramming into him.
Oh my! We must clap here for Pastor. I was really disappointed. We didn't actually get to see the overtaking move. The Formula One producers didn't show us. Maybe they thought it was too demeaning for our current world champion.
I'm going to move on. Too much of Hamilton already. He didn't have a great weekend on Singapore, and I don't know why we're giving him so much airtime on the Inside Line F1 podcast. But one driver who deserves enough airtime, and not just for his surname, is Alexander Rossi. I think he did a decent race, and just driving past the unbeatable Lewis in his inaugural Grand Prix would have helped him and kept him satisfied.
And that was not to unlap himself. But yes, P14 is a marvellous finish and I'm so happy for the young American.
Yes, and he also probably, in my view, has got more TV time in his debut race than Manor and even Roberto Meri have probably managed all season.
Who's that again?
And he did all of this without a radio.
Wow. I guess it does help to have a famous last name, Kunal. And I guess that's also why he was stuck in P3 during the second restart.
They probably mistook him for the great Valentino. But the only American driver on the grid, I'm sure that makes him coveted property for the teams. And I can tell you there will be a lot of sponsors on display at the Austin Grand Prix later this year. Given Formula One's obsession, of course, to cracking the American market.
Meanwhile, the Red Bulls had a great run. Quick on the pace, managing their tyres well. Very happy to see them perform well.
Yes, it was a very impressive drive by Daniel Ricciardo. He held on to P2 despite Ferrari's best efforts.
Woohoo! Well done.
But the one incident I'd really love to talk about is the one between Felipe Massa and my favorite driver, Nico Hülkenberg.
Kunal, I'm going to ask you the question on everybody's mind. Was the Hulk really to blame for that incident?
So let me give you a bit of perspective. So firstly, the onus is actually on Felipe Massa to join the track safely from the pit lane. Okay. And while I see this as a racing accident, okay, there is a wee bit of blame you could actually put on Hülkenberg. Okay. There were, of course, television commentary that Hülkenberg couldn't see Massa in his rear view mirrors. And to me, that's absolute crap because Massa was by his side and not in his rear.
Well, it doesn't matter now. Hülkenberg gets a 3-place grid penalty in Japan. I really wonder if he's allowed to protest.
However, one look at the leaderboard tells us that it was a dismal race for McLaren again. That was my line. It was their 4th double retirement of the season.
You know, this is how McLaren are preparing Jenson Button for retirement. But again, not surprised.
And they're also, for a change, admitting that they're worried about their revenues dipping in 2016. They'll have less monies from FOM. And such dismal performances would mean that sponsors don't find them attractive either, much like fans are not finding them attractive as well.
So, Kunal, we all know that Singapore is an extremely strict and rule-abiding country. You know, there's this famous quote that goes, Singapore is a fine country, pun intended. But you know, it's extremely surprising that we had not 1, not 2, but 3 instances of really bad behavior on display at the Singapore Grand Prix.
Oh, interesting. No, I'm going to try and actually recap the
Let's
3
see
moments.
how well you do.
I do know that there was one where Ferrari got hauled up by the stewards for some menace after the race. Some things got out of hand in Parc Fermé during the podium celebrations, and the team had to issue an unconditional apology. How strange. You win and then you come and say, hey, I'm sorry we got too excited by celebrating our win.
Oh dear, yes. Ferrari mechanics, they pushed past race officials to get to the podium, and then they pushed past photographers to get to the pit lane. A lot of pushing happening there, Kunal.
And ironically, this was before they had any of their champagne.
Yeah. All I can say is next time Ferrari should let the car do the pushing on track.
The second bizarre incident that happened, which was very obvious, was the unknown fan who simply just strolled onto the circuit while cars were whizzing past.
What was that? I mean, I swear, he was wearing shorts and sneakers. It was like he was out on a casual post-dinner stroll.
Given that the Singapore Grand Prix starts at 8 o'clock local time, I'm not surprised if dinner was actually his meal of choice.
Yeah.
But reports indicate that he was British. Okay, it was reports, I don't know. And maybe there is a link here, that Lewis had crashed out of the race just 3 laps before this incident.
Oh my. So that was just a fan who decided to walk home. Now it all makes sense. Though Sebastian Vettel, he got a pretty close-up view of this random intruder, claims he took a photograph.
You know, I think I'm going to introduce that fan to the world of zoom lenses. But I am very curious to know if he actually clicked a selfie or was he being boring by clicking a regular picture?
My God. But you know, it was a brilliant, brilliant plug for Johnny Walker. Keep walking, but not on the racetrack.
I'm going to send them an invoice for this unexpected mention on our podcast. But back to the fan. I'm surprised, though, that Ricciardo claims that the episode cost him the race win.
Well, never know. And the final case of bad behavior at Singapore, Kunal.
Yes.
I'm just going to tell you. Max Verstappen.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah. So he disobeyed Toro Rosso team orders to let Carlos Sainz pass by. What was that all about?
I don't know how to put it. The easiest way to put it is that Toro Rosso wanted Carlos Sainz, who was on newer tires, to have a shot at Sergio Perez for P7. Okay. And hence they wanted the drivers to change positions. And had that not happened, they would have probably asked them to switch positions back. Although, in my view, to do this with 2 laps to go was a little bit too ambitious.
True. Red Bull did it earlier this season.
And, if nothing else, at least now we all know that underneath, Max is still a rebellious and hot-headed teenager who won't listen to anyone.
Go to your room, Max. You've been a bad, bad boy.
Put him in the corner.
Well, I do expect Sainz and Verstappen to be in Formula One for a long, long time and fight many a championship together, either as teammates or otherwise. And they're already having their run-ins with team orders, huh?
Yes, though, I'll be very excited to know when they'll be available on the driver market, because currently the market is very boring. Every team has gone and confirmed their drivers, okay? And it's the engine market that's actually heating up. There's a lot that is happening on that front.
Absolutely. So rumor has it that Renault's buyout of Lotus is complete. So we will have a Renault works team on the grid next year. Good news.
It's good news. It's good to see Renault back on the grid as a car manufacturer, as not just an engine manufacturer. I am pretty certain Bernie's tried extremely hard to have them, and he's unfortunately or not offered them iconic status already. Okay. However, we get to hear that Grosjean is moving on, possibly, to Haas next year, which seems a little strange, given that he's the faster driver, B, he's French.
Pastor Maldonado has been confirmed for a Renault seat, though.
Damn.
It's a shame that a works team would fall for a paid driver.
Super
Damn!
That still doesn't explain why, though, that the Lotus Racing suit for the drivers was green. I mean, it made Maldonado look like the Hulk, and he isn't really the Hulk, or maybe he is.
I would have gone with Shrek, but okay.
The bigger irony, though, is that if Renault return as a team in Formula One, they will lose the only element of their car which is as quick as the front-running teams, the Mercedes engines. However, there's stronger rumors that Red Bull will be powered by a Ferrari engine in 2016. And if Singapore form is anything to go by, a Red Bull-Ferrari combination will be extremely lethal. And I wonder if Ferrari is already rethinking their willingness to give Red Bull their engines. But hats off to Ferrari. They're fueling competition rather than killing it, I have to add here that Mercedes is, on the other hand, content at supplying to the minnows manner.
Possibly manner, but Ferrari is only a temporary solution. Can you imagine that? How many people in the world can boast of having a Ferrari engine as a temporary solution? Doesn't sound right.
I wish I could do what Red Bull is doing.
Well, don't we all? They're using Ferrari till Audi prepare to challenge themselves and then the others in this new engine formula era.
That's very nicely put. Firstly, challenge themselves like Honda has been. And then dream to challenge the others. But honestly, I'd love to see Audi in Formula One. A new manufacturer would mean new investments, new technology, and more importantly, new fans and publicity.
But Kunal, it's time for a little bit of publicity on this podcast. And this time, it's for the Inside Line F1 podcast.
I'm really willing to know what it is.
So we're very, very close to 100,000 listens.
Woohoo!
Wow, that is some landmark.
I now know why you were hiding the statistics page from me all of last week. But, it is that time of the season. We were actually hoping to reach this magical 6-digit number by the end of the season. And it's great surprise to have done it with 6 races to spare already. We are actually doing better than McLaren Honda.
I don't think we should compare ourselves down that road. But Kunal, as we wait for Japan, why don't you recommend 3 episodes that you'd absolutely love our listeners, especially our new listeners, to go back and plug into?
For sure. It's going to be the interview we did with David Coulthard in Hyderabad, minutes before he drove, and he performed donuts thanks to Red Bull.
That was a really, really good one.
We had a fantastic opportunity there. Then there was a lot on Lewis Hamilton, one about his bad hair days and how they're here to stay, and of course his statistical comparison with Ayrton Senna. That was one hell of a controversial episode going by fan feedback.
But on that note, thank you so much to all our listeners for tuning in this week. And see you next week as we look forward to Suzuka. We really hope that Jenson Button does not hang up his helmet from Formula One. We cannot handle that.
Wait, we have yet to do a Suzuka preview yet, and there's a genuine question to ask this time around.
Ferrari versus Mercedes. Really? Do you think we have a fight on the cards this weekend too?
Ferrari say that this isn't a one-off. Mercedes also claim that this wasn't a one-off. That means for Formula One and for the fans, all we can do is really hope that we have one hell of a fight.
Oh, yes.
Honestly, I'd love to see Sebastian Vettel in his Ferrari take Lewis Hamilton in his Mercedes. That would be mega.
And being the Kimi fan that I am, I'd absolutely love to see Raikkonen back on the podium. You knew I'd bring that up. Are you then willing to back Ferrari and Vettel for this top step in your predictions?
I still guess not. I think it's going to be Mercedes and Hamilton in Suzuka.
Ooh, I just had this flashback of Hamilton saying, "I'll be back."
The Rocket Mortgage Super Bowl Squares Sweepstakes is back. It's the largest official game of Super Bowl Squares ever, with millions of dollars in prizes, and best of all, it's free to enter. Every score change, someone wins $50,000. Just enter for free at RocketMortgageSquares.com, and it could be you. Touchdowns, field goals, safeties, extra points. Every single score change will draw one lucky winner from the square to win $50,000. Plus, 2 grand prize winners will win $500,000 they could use toward their dream home. One way to enter, 2 ways to win. See rules and enter for free at RocketMortgageSquares.com. Then tune into the Super Bowl on February 7th to see if you bring home some dough. Rocket Mortgage, official mortgage sponsor of Super Bowl 55.
No purchase necessary. Legal residents of the 50 U.S. and D.C. of age of majority. Ends 2/4/2021, 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030. The NFL entities as defined in the official rules have not offered or sponsored this promotion in any way.